the dark side of credit cards, and how I use them to travel free. I'm sitting in a first-class seat somewhere over the Atlantic right now, drinking champagne that costs more than most people's monthly phone bill, and I didn't pay a single dollar for this flight. Not one. But 3 years ago, this same credit card system had me crying in my car at 2 a.m, staring at a number on my phone screen that made me physically sick. $23,000. That's what I owed, and I had no idea how it happened. The same plastic rectangles that are flying me to Paris for free today nearly destroyed my life. And the difference between those two realities comes down to something so simple that it sounds stupid when I say it out loud. I learned the rules. Actually, I learned something darker than that. I learned that credit card companies are playing a game, and 95% of people don't even know they're players. They think they're customers, but they're actually the product. And the difference between being the product and being the player is the difference between drowning and flying first class. This isn't going to be one of those feel-good stories where I tell you everything's fine and credit cards are your friend. They're not. They're a weapon. And like any weapon, the question isn't whether it's dangerous, it's who's holding it, and whether they know how to use it without shooting themselves in the foot. Let me take you back to where this started, because if you've ever felt that cold sweat when you check your credit card balance, you'll understand this moment. I was 26 years old, making decent money at a marketing job, and I genuinely believed I was being responsible. I had 3 credit cards, I made the minimum payments every month, like clockwork, and I told myself I was building credit. That's what they tell you, right? Build your credit. My parents said it, my friends said it, every financial article I skimmed said it. What nobody told me was that making minimum payments on a growing balance is like bailing water out of a sinking boat with a teaspoon. You're doing something, sure, but you're still drowning, just slower. The worst part wasn't even the debt itself. The worst part was how it crept up on me. $50 here for dinner because I had a bad day at work. $120 there for those shoes I deserved because I'd worked overtime. $300 for a weekend trip because you only live once, and I'd pay it off next month anyway. Except next month came, and there was always another reason, another bad day, another thing I deserved. The balance climbed like a slow-motion avalanche, and I didn't even notice until I was buried. Here's the thing that nobody wants to admit about credit card debt, the thing that makes it so insidious. It doesn't feel like real money. I know that sounds obvious, even childish, but think about it honestly. When you hand over cash, you feel it leave your hand. You watch your wallet get lighter. There's a physical sensation of loss that your brain processes as pain, actual pain. Scientists have done studies on this. The part of your brain that lights up when you spend cash is the same part that processes physical injury. But a credit card? You tap a piece of plastic against another piece of plastic, or worse, you just click a button on your phone, and there's nothing. No pain, no loss, no sensation at all. It's frictionless, and that lack of friction is intentional. The credit card companies have spent billions of dollars and decades of research figuring out how to remove every psychological barrier between you and spending money you don't have. They've weaponized behavioral psychology, and most people don't stand a chance against it. I certainly didn't. And if you're sitting there thinking you're smarter than that you'd never fall for it, let me ask you something. Do you know your exact credit card balance right now, to the dollar, without looking? Because I didn't. Not for years. The night I hit $23,000 in debt, I wasn't even doing anything dramatic. I was sitting in my parked car outside a grocery store, and I just tried to buy $83 worth of food. My card got declined. Not one of my cards. All 3 of them. I sat there in the dark parking lot with the engine off, and I pulled out my phone with shaking hands to check my banking app. That's when I saw the number. $23,417. The monthly minimum payment was $643, which was more than my car payment and insurance combined. And here's the truly evil part, the part that made me want to throw up right there in the Whole Foods parking lot. If I paid just the minimum, just that $643 every single month without spending another penny on those cards, do you know how long it would take me to pay off that debt? 41 years. I'd be 67 years old. My future children would be grown. I'd be thinking about retirement, and I'd still be paying for dinners I ate and forgot about when I was 26 years old. The interest alone would mean I'd pay back over $53,000. I'd pay more than twice what I actually spent. And for what? I couldn't even remember what most of it was for. And look, I need you to do me a favor right here, because I'm about to tell you how I went from that parking lot to flying first class to Europe for free. But if this story helps you at all, if it makes you think differently about those pieces of plastic in your wallet, hit that like button. Seriously, I know everyone says that, but the algorithm only shows this to more people if you engage with it. And somewhere out there is someone sitting in their car right now, looking at a number on their phone that makes them feel sick, and maybe this could help them. Maybe you could help them by just pressing a button. And subscribe if you haven't, because I'm going to keep making these, keep telling you the truth about money that the financial industry doesn't want you to know. All right, back to the story. So I'm sitting in this parking lot, and I've got a choice to make, the same choice everyone with credit card debt has to make. I can pretend it's not that bad and keep doing what I'm doing, or I can face it head on. Most people choose option 1. They keep making minimums, they keep spending, they tell themselves it'll work out somehow. And you know what happens to most of those people? They end up bankrupt, or they spend decades of their life trapped in a cage made of interest rates and minimum payments. I chose option 2, but not because I'm special or smart or disciplined. I chose it because I was terrified. Fear is a powerful motivator, maybe the most powerful. And that night I was afraid of what my life would look like if I didn't change something immediately. So I did something that felt humiliating at the time, but saved my life. I called my parents and asked for help. Not money. I didn't want money. I wanted them to hold me accountable. I told them the number, 23,000, and I heard my mom suck in her breath on the other end of the phone. My dad didn't say anything for a long moment, and when he did, all he said was this: "You're going to fix this, and we're going to help you figure out how." That phone call was 10 months ago. Today, my credit card debt is 0, completely paid off. And in those same 10 months, I've accumulated enough miles and points to book 12 flights and 8 hotel stays, including the first-class ticket to Paris I'm on right now. Same credit cards, same system, completely different outcome. The question you're probably asking is how, and the answer is going to sound too simple to be true. But I promise you it's not. I learned the rules of the game. Credit card companies make money in 2 ways, and understanding both of these is the foundation of everything else. The first way is interest. When you carry a balance, when you don't pay off your card in full every month, they charge you interest rates that would make a loan shark blush. 18%, 22%, 29%. Some cards go even higher. This is where they make most of their money, bleeding people dry month after month, year after year. The average American carries over $6,000 in credit card debt, and most of them will never pay it off because the interest keeps piling up faster than they can make payments. This is the dark side, the trap, the thing that nearly destroyed me. But here's the second way they make money, and this is where it gets interesting. They make money from merchants. Every time you swipe your card, the store pays the credit card company a fee, usually 2 to 3% of your purchase. So if you spend $100, the credit card company gets $2 or $3 from the store instantly, whether you pay your bill or not. This is free money for them, and it's how they can afford to offer rewards. Miles, cashback, points, all of that comes from merchant fees. Here's the beautiful, twisted irony of the whole system. The credit card companies designed these rewards programs to encourage you to spend more money, rack up debt, and pay them interest. That's the game plan. Get you hooked on rewards, get you spending, get you carrying a balance. But what if you took the rewards without ever paying them interest? What if you used their weapon against them? That's exactly what I started doing, and it's completely legal, completely ethical, and the credit card companies absolutely hate that people like me exist. We're called churners in some circles, though I hate that term. It makes it sound sketchy. There's nothing sketchy about it. I'm just playing by the exact rules they set up. I'm just playing to win instead of playing to lose. Here's how it works in practice, and I'm going to be really specific because vague advice is useless. First, I cut up my credit cards. Literally took scissors to them. Not because I was closing the accounts, but because I needed a physical reminder that I couldn't use them the way I used to. I set up a new system where I could only use credit cards for things I would have bought anyway with my debit card. Groceries, gas, bills I already pay, nothing else. No impulse purchases, no treating myself, no emergencies that weren't actually emergencies. If I wouldn't buy it with cash, I don't buy it with credit. Period. This is the non-negotiable foundation. Without this, everything else I'm about to tell you will just lead you right back to debt. Second, I set up autopay for the full balance. Not the minimum, the full balance. Every single month, without exception, my cards get paid off completely. This means I never pay a cent in interest, which means the credit card company makes $0 from me that way. The only money they make from me is the merchant fees, and in exchange for that, they give me rewards. I'm getting paid to buy groceries I was going to buy anyway. Once I had that system locked in, once I proved to myself over 3 months that I could stick to it, that's when I started researching credit card rewards programs. And this is where the real game begins, because not all credit cards are created equal. Some give you 1% cash back on everything. That's garbage. That's nothing. Some give you 5% cash back on rotating categories. Better, but still not great. The cards you want, the cards that can actually change your life if you use them right, are the premium travel rewards cards. Cards like the Chase Sapphire Reserve, the American Express Platinum, the Capital One Venture X. These cards have annual fees that sound insane. $495 a year, $695 a year. When I first saw those numbers, I laughed out loud. Who would pay that? But here's what I didn't understand. Those annual fees come with sign-up bonuses that are worth thousands of dollars. Let me give you a real example, because abstract numbers don't mean anything. The Chase Sapphire Preferred Card, which has a $95 annual fee, was offering a sign-up bonus when I applied. Spend $4,000 in the first 3 months, get 60,000 bonus points. Now $4,000 sounds like a lot, but remember, I'm only putting stuff on there I'd buy anyway. Groceries, gas, my phone bill, my internet, my utilities. Over 3 months, I hit that 4,000 easy, without buying a single thing I wouldn't have normally bought. Those 60,000 points? In Chase's travel portal, they're worth $750 in flights or hotels. I paid $95 in annual fee, I got $750 in travel value, and I didn't pay a single cent in interest because I paid the card off in full every month. That's a $655 profit, and all I did was use their card for purchases I was making anyway. That's one card, one sign-up bonus. Now imagine you do that strategically with 3 or 4 cards over the course of a year, being careful not to hurt your credit score, spacing them out properly. You could easily accumulate enough points for multiple international flights, hotel stays, car rentals, experiences you could never afford otherwise. This is how I went to Japan last spring, completely free. Flights, hotels, everything covered by points. But here's where people mess this up, and I need to be really clear about this because the difference between success and disaster is razor thin. If you're carrying any credit card debt right now, if you have a balance that you're not paying off in full every month, stop reading this as advice and start reading it as a cautionary tale. Don't apply for these cards. Don't chase the sign-up bonuses. Don't try to play the game. Pay off your debt first. Get to zero. Prove to yourself that you can use a credit card responsibly for at least 6 months. Because if you can't, if you use these premium cards to rack up more debt, you'll pay more in interest in 1 year than you'd ever get back in rewards in 10 years. The math doesn't work. The house wins, you lose. This isn't a strategy for people who want to spend more. This is a strategy for people who have their spending completely under control and want to maximize value from purchases they're already making. I can't stress that enough. The credit card companies are hoping you'll read about these rewards, get excited, apply for the cards, hit the spending requirement by buying stuff you don't need, and then carry a balance. That's the trap. That's how they get you. The only way this works is if you treat your credit card exactly like a debit card that happens to give you free flights. Now let me tell you about the dark psychology behind why this is so hard for most people. Because understanding the enemy is half the battle. Credit card companies employ some of the smartest behavioral psychologists in the world. These aren't just financial institutions, they're psychology labs, and you're the experiment. They know, for instance, that people spend more when they use credit cards than when they use cash. Studies show it's about 12 to 18% more on average. They know that increasing your credit limit makes you feel wealthier, even though you're not. which encourages more spending. They know that reward points trigger the same dopamine response in your brain as winning money gambling. Every time you earn points, you get a little hit of pleasure, and your brain starts associating spending with reward. They know that breaking purchases into smaller payments, like buy now, pay later schemes, removes the pain of paying. $25 a month for 6 months feels like nothing. $150 all at once feels like something. Same amount, different psychological impact. They've gamified spending, turned it into something that feels good instead of something that should make you pause and think. And the scariest part? They're getting better at it every year. The newer credit cards have apps that are designed like video games. Achievements, progress bars, tier systems, exclusive levels. You're not managing your finances, you're playing a game where the goal is to spend more and reach the next status level. Platinum, gold, black card, whatever. These are meaningless designations designed to make you feel special, important, elite. But you know what actually makes you elite? Being debt-free, having money saved, not paying interest to banks. That's true financial status, but they'll never gamify that because there's no profit in it for them. So when I started playing this game for real, when I started treating credit cards as a tool to extract value instead of a way to buy things I couldn't afford, I had to completely rewire my brain. I had to stop seeing rewards points as free money and start seeing them as a tiny rebate on money I was spending anyway. I had to stop caring about credit card tier status and start caring about my actual net worth. I had to turn off all the psychological manipulation, all the notifications and achievements and special offers, and just use the card as a transaction tool. Spend money I already have, get the points, pay it off immediately, repeat. Boring, systematic, emotionless. That's what works. And here's where this gets really interesting, where the strategy goes from basic to advanced. Once you've mastered the fundamentals, once you can confidently use credit cards without carrying a balance, you can start optimizing. Different cards give different rewards for different categories. One card might give you 3 points per dollar on dining, another gives you 5 points per dollar on travel, another gives you 4 points per dollar on groceries. If you're strategic about which card you use for which purchase, you can maximize your points, earning across all your spending. I have 4 cards now, all with different strengths, and I use them like tools in a toolbox. Groceries on this one, gas on that one, restaurants on another, everything else on the 4th. My system is automated. I know exactly which card to pull out for which purchase, and at the end of every month, I pay them all off in full with money I've already budgeted. I've earned over 300,000 points in the last 10 months. That's enough for round-trip business-class flights to Europe for 2 people, with points left over for hotels. The cash value of what I've gotten would be somewhere around $8,000, and I didn't pay a single cent in interest or spend a single dollar I wouldn't have spent anyway. $8,000 in value, 0 cost beyond the annual fees, which total about $700 across all 4 cards. That's a $7,100 net gain just for being strategic about where I swipe. But let's talk about the emotional side of this, because the money and the math are just part of the story. The real transformation happened in how I feel about money. When I was drowning in debt, money controlled me. Every purchase came with guilt or anxiety. Every time my phone buzzed with a notification from my banking app, my stomach dropped. I couldn't make plans, couldn't think about the future, couldn't breathe without this weight on my chest. Money wasn't a tool, it was a prison guard. Now, money is boring. I know exactly where every dollar goes. I know my balances without looking because I check them regularly without fear. I make decisions based on what I actually want and can afford, not based on whether I can squeeze it onto a credit card. The psychological freedom of that, of not being controlled by debt, is worth more than any number of free flights. But the free flights are pretty great too. Last month I took my parents to Italy, as a thank you for helping me get out of debt. Flights and hotels completely covered by points. My dad cried when I told him. Not because of the trip, but because he was proud of how far I'd come. That moment, sitting across from my parents at dinner in Rome, knowing I'd paid for this entire trip without actually paying for it, knowing I'd turned my biggest failure into my biggest success, that was worth more than anything money could buy. Here's what I need you to understand as we get close to the end here, the core truth that everything else hangs on. Credit cards are not good or bad. They're powerful. Power can build or destroy depending on who wields it and how they use it. The credit card companies want you to think of them as your friend, as a helpful tool, as a way to afford things you couldn't otherwise afford. That's a lie. They're not your friend. They're a business designed to extract maximum profit from you. And their favorite customers are the ones who carry balances and pay interest for years. But you can flip the script. You can be their least favorite customer, the one who takes all the rewards and never pays them a cent in interest, the one who uses their own weapon against them. That's what I do now, and it's completely changed my relationship with money. I travel more now than I ever did when I was in debt, but I travel for free. I have better experiences, see more of the world, create more memories, and it doesn't cost me anything beyond what I was already spending on regular life expenses. The secret isn't spending more, it's spending smarter. It's understanding the game, respecting the danger, and playing to win. So where does this leave you? Maybe you're sitting there with credit card debt right now, feeling that familiar anxiety creeping up. Maybe you're debt-free but not maximizing your cards. Maybe you've never even thought about this stuff before. Wherever you are, here's what I want you to take away from this. First, be honest about where you are. If you have credit card debt, that's your only priority. Not rewards, not points, not free flights. Debt elimination, period. Get aggressive about it, cut your spending, throw every extra dollar at the highest interest card first, and don't stop until you're at zero. It's going to be hard, and it's going to take time, but I promise you it's worth it. Second, if you're debt-free, start thinking strategically. Research cards, understand the reward systems, figure out which ones align with how you already spend money. Don't change your spending to chase rewards. That's the trap. Change which card you use for spending you're doing anyway. Third, automate everything. Set up autopay for the full balance. Remove the human error element. Remove the temptation. Make it impossible to mess this up. And fourth, stay humble. The second you think you've got it all figured out, the second you start getting cocky, that's when you'll make a mistake. The credit card companies are smarter than you, they have more resources than you, and they're playing a long game. Respect that. Stay vigilant. I'm coming to the end of this flight now, and I'm looking out the window at Paris below, the Eiffel Tower visible even from up here, and I'm thinking about that parking lot 10 months ago. That version of me, terrified and ashamed, would never believe he'd end up here. But here I am, and here you could be too, whether that means literally traveling the world or just sleeping better at night knowing you're not drowning in debt. The system is rigged, but it's not unbeatable. You can win this game if you learn the rules and refuse to play their version of it. If this resonated with you at all, if you learned something or felt something or thought about money differently for even a moment, I need you to do 3 things. First, smash that subscribe button because I'm going to keep making content like this. Keep telling the truth about money and credit and all the stuff the banks don't want you to know. Second, hit the like button so this reaches more people who need to hear it. And third, leave a comment. Tell me your credit card story. Tell me where you are in your journey. Tell me if you think I'm completely wrong about all of this. I don't care if you agree or disagree. I just want to know this made you think. That's all that matters. Now go take control of your money before it controls you. See you in the next one.